City bureau chief, is here tonight. Kiera Feldman has done some remarkable reporting for us. I feel compelled to first do an altar call and ask any of you if you're unfamiliar with the Oral Roberts family to please pull out your wallets. And anyway, Kiera Feldman, her first story for us, Grace in Broken Arrow, was about a child sex scandal that was being covered up by an evangelical church in Tulsa, and it was a story that the local papers had glossed over and essentially missed. But for about a year, she researched the story in depth. She put all the pieces together, and what resulted was the 2012 Longreads nonfiction article of the year. It was an incredible story that really shook a lot of people, and it was wonderfully written. Her follow-up story is here on the table that you can purchase afterwards, about the life of Richard Roberts, the son of evangelist Oral Roberts, who started Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which occupies a special place in my heart. So Kiera Feldman will share her stories now. So.
Okay, I'm bringing my phone up so I can keep time a little bit, because Michael can tell you this, I'm very bad at time. I started the Richard Roberts story almost 2 years ago. All right, that's true. So tonight I'd like to tell a story about a family that could not reproduce to save its own life. It could not produce a suitable heir. And that's the Roberts family. So Oral Roberts is known as the father of televangelism, kind of the father of what's called the prosperity gospel. That if you send a check in the mail to the ministry, that God will reward you with health, wealth, and happiness. So Oral Roberts had 4 biological children, and one son, Carlton Pearson, who was known, who he termed his black son. So we'll get to Oral Roberts' black son later. If you've heard of the Smug Life episode, Heretics, that would be about Carlton Pearson. But I would like to talk a little bit about Roberta, who is the youngest daughter in the Roberts family. So the oldest son is Ronnie. Ronnie was supposed to be the successor to the throne. He was brilliant, talented, but he wanted nothing to do with kind of the kingdom that his father had built. And then the second child was, now I'm blanking. Rebecca. They all have R names. And Rebecca was killed in a fiery plane crash in 1978. And the youngest son is named Richard, and he's the one that ended up kind of inheriting the kingdom and kind of crashing ingloriously. And the youngest child is Roberta. So Roberta is this kind of weird character now, in that she's kind of in this role of kind of trying to carry the family flame. And she was kind of on the outs with Oral Roberts for the last 20 years of his life. She had nothing to do with the university, but she was, ironically, the only one in the family that actually, the only child who actually really deeply and truly cared for it. So by the time I got to Tulsa to report this story, Roberta had written this memoir, and she was really kind of trying to save the kind of the reputation of Oral Roberts University. And so that meant that she wanted to give me a tour of campus. And so she's kind of this incredibly tightly wound person who's very nervous. Everything about her harkens to some kind of, bygone era. She was wearing this kind of long dress with these huge shoulder pads and this kind of bright pink lipstick from circa 1987, and these kind of like huge white sneakers. And she had this type list of things she wanted to tell me about, like kind of all of the different memories of, over there, that's the place where I had my first kiss. And over there, that's the place where, I saw the man I would one day marry, and over there, that's where he proposed to me. And it kind of started to dawn on me that like everything about, not everything, but most of what she was talking about was kind of things that had to do with kind of her courtship and how it kind of tied into the story of the university and the story of her life there. And so we were walking around, and this was kind of one of the hottest summers on record, I think, in Tulsa. I mean, the temperatures were reaching like 114 degrees. And like I was driving the big This Land pickup truck, which is amazing. Like I had never driven a truck before, and like you really don't. I mean, like, it's a new feeling to kind of like pull into like just an enormous parking lot and kind of like survey the parking lot and be like, yeah, I stand here in the rank of my pickup truck compared to everyone else's pickup truck. Like, where you stand. Anyway, okay, so love driving the pickup truck. But so I was really, I have a bit of a baby face, and people tend to think that I'm younger than I am. So I was really kind of like wearing the one like Banana Republic outfit I own, and really trying to put on like professional, trying to present myself as there in a professional capacity. And Roberta's giving this tour around campus, and then we run into this professor that she had gone to Oral Roberts University with, and she kind of starts to introduce me to the professor, and she goes, oh, well, this is Kiera Feldman, blah, 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 and then the professor kind of leans in and he goes, what's your major? And I'm like, oh, okay, saw this one coming, I start to answer like, oh, I'm actually here interviewing Roberta, and then he kind of leans in and he goes, is it boys? And so it doesn't really help if then you double over laughing and can't speak for a few minutes. Like that does not help, So I kind of like managed to say like, no, sir, I'm not majoring in boys. Let's see. But that, and I kind of got to, like, I thought this was just kind of one of those funny things that happen when you're, out in the field. But I actually think that kind of is like a little bit the key to understanding how the Roberts family works, and that like everything about kind of the story of yourself and how you relate to the world involves, it's being like a straight person who gets married and has crushes, and like that was kind of like the way in which like kind of this like hetero policing was happening. I mean, like that would never happen to you at like any other secular school, that like someone would get asked, are you majoring in boys? So that was kind of going at the back of my mind when I was kind of thinking of kind of the fate of the other children in the Roberts family. So Roberta has 2 sons, and both of them are gay, and so that does not work so well in the Roberts family. So Roberta doesn't speak to them, but instead she kind of just like prays and hopes for a miracle. Like that's kind of the miracle that she is expecting, is that they will get cured of what she kind of thinks of as kind of their like ailment. Her older brother Ronnie, he was married and then committed suicide in the early 80s, and so Ronnie went to a Unitarian church in Tulsa, which is kind of remarkable if you think about it. That the eldest son, the one who should have inherited the whole kingdom, ends up going to what, by some counts, is the largest Unitarian church in the world, kind of deep within the Bible Belt, and it's called All Souls Unitarian Church. So All Souls is kind of like the Shores the shores that people wash up upon in Tulsa, I think. People fleeing, whatever their upbringings are. And one person who washed up washed up isn't quite the right word, but ended up at All Souls is a preacher named Carlton Pearson. So Carlton Pearson, in the 70s, Oral Roberts brought Carlton, who was then a young Pentecostal at Oral Roberts University, into his office and said, son, Richard here, Richard's my biological son. He has the indispensable name of Roberts. But you are my black son. I need a black son. 25% of my income comes from African Americans, and I need you. So fast forward like 30 years, and Carlton Pearson is, he kind of had built up this whole mega church of like 5,000 people in Tulsa, and then he ended up losing it all basically because he stopped believing in hell. He became a heretic. So by the time I got around to talking to him, that must have been 2012. That was before I went to Tulsa. He's still was cracking open, he was kind of telling me all the secrets of kind of the Roberts family. And this was a phone call because he's in Chicago. And this was one of those just like ungodly hot days in New York, where it was 1,000% humidity. I didn't have AC. I'm on the telephone, and after like 2 hours of him telling me all about how that Richard was supposed to inherit part of the university and Roberta wasn't supposed to inherit everything, and Richard wanted everything, and he's just kind of like telling me all of the dirt, and he's telling me all these things that I'm not supposed to know and that I can't tell you now. And but the problem is that like I've been like chain eating popsicles this whole time because it's really hot and I don't have AC, and all I have is like just this endless supply of Otter Pops. And I'm cranking water, and after about 2 hours, and I don't think he's breathing this entire time, because this is what he does. He's a minister. He no longer has his congregation, but he still can talk for hours. And I'm just thinking like I'm really about to pee myself. Like that's like actually going to happen. Like, is that going to be a bridge that we cross? Like I've never peed myself in an interview, And so, but I just know, like you just know when someone is kind of on a roll that if you take a break and say like, oh, can we just do a little timeout? I need to go to the bathroom, that it's over. The spell will be broken. He'll know that he really should stop talking, and say, oh, well, I think we'll wrap it up for now. We've been, look at the time. It's been 3 hours now. And so, I'm just like, okay, this is happening. I might pee myself. And then I hear on the other end of the phone the unmistakable sound of peeing. And I think I must be on speakerphone because it's really, really loud and clear. And he just keeps talking through the pee. I'm like, how is he holding the phone? How is he? Okay. And then he flushes also. And I just thought, wow, like he sees no problem with this. Like he knows that I know that he's peeing, and he's just going with it. And I thought, this is what it means to be anointed. Thank you.